Hermetics. Franz Bardon, the Magician. Lesson 1. The Fire Principle. Deep reading about the fire principle. Firstborn from Akasha. The weight of being first. Bardon does not begin with a definition. He begins with a cosmological event, the first differentiation of Akasha into something with quality. And what emerges first is fire. This is not a chronological claim. Akasha is outside time, the causal principle behind time. This is an ontological priority. When causality moves toward manifestation, the first quality that appears is expansion. The universe's original impulse is outward. Not inward, not circular, not neutral, but outward. This is what fire means at its deepest level. Consider what it means to be ontologically first. Fire does not emerge after something prepares the ground for it. It is the ground being broken. Every subsequent element, water, air, earth, presupposes that fire has already happened. Water exists as fire's necessary opposite. Air exists as their mediator. Earth exists as their densified product. Without the fire principle having moved first, there is no system to speak of. In physics, the closest analog is the Big Bang itself, not an explosion in space, but the explosive differentiation of space and energy from a single undifferentiated point. Physicists describe it as pure energy expanding outward at maximum velocity. They are describing fire in materialist language without knowing it. In Kabbalah, the letter SCH, Shin, is the highest of the three mother letters, analogous to the primordial fire, and Bardon confirms this in the key to the true Kabbalah. The SCH vibration in the Akashic principle represents the first outpouring of divine creation, the primordial fire combined with primordial light as unmanifested omnipotence. SCH is the universe speaking itself into existence. Bardon does not say this explicitly in the Adept book, but his entire system implies it. The student who reaches the Kabbalah will recognize the fire chapter was always the SCH chapter in disguise. Heat and expansion. Two faces of one absolute property. Bardon gives fire two basic properties, heat and expansion. The precision here matters. He is not listing two separate attributes. He is showing you that what appears as two is actually one phenomenon perceived from inside and outside simultaneously. Heat is expansion at the particle level. When matter heats up, its particles move faster, collide more violently, push further apart. The thermometer does not measure something different from the expansion. It is the expansion, rendered numerically. Conversely, expansion is what heat does structurally. They are not cause and effect. They are the same event seen from two vantage points. Bardon is showing something even deeper here. At the elemental level, form and force are the same thing. Fire does not have a property of expansion. Fire is expansion. You cannot separate the element from its action any more than you can separate a wave from its motion. This is also the seed of the four-pole magnet already present in fire alone. The active pole of fire is the constructive, the creating, the producing. The passive pole is the corrosive, the annihilating. But both are expressions of the same expansion principle, one directed toward building outward, one directed toward breaking outward. Even within a single element, polarity is already alive. The practical consequence for the student: when you work with the fire element in meditation or accumulation exercises, you are not working with heat as a sensation that happens to cause expansion. You are working with one unified force. The sensation of warmth is the expansion pressing against your awareness. Learn to feel them as one, and your command of the element deepens immediately. Electric fluid. The most important translation in the entire chapter. Bardon introduces the term electric fluid with a significant qualification. He uses it for the sake of imagination, meaning it is a pedagogical bridge, not the final description of the reality. This single caveat contains an entire philosophy of teaching. The electric fluid is not electricity as physics understands it, not electrons moving through a conductor, not voltage or amperage. It is the universal tendency of energy to move outward from center, centrifugal force in its pre-material, cosmological form. It is what all specific centrifugal phenomena, heat radiation, electromagnetic propagation, gravitational repulsion at quantum scales, are expressions of, not the thing itself. The cross-system correspondences Bardon does not name. Chinese cosmology. This is yang before it crystallizes into any specific yang phenomenon, the pure yang impulse, undifferentiated, prior to any particular expression. Kabbalah. This maps to the right pillar, the active column, Chakma's creative impulse, and the letter SCH, the will that projects outward into creation. Physics. The electromagnetic field's electric component, the force that repels, radiates, and pushes is a gross material shadow of the electric fluid. Indian tradition. The Tejas Tattva, the fire element, as the primary expansive movement of prana. Bardon is giving a universal key here that works in every system simultaneously. He does not name these systems because naming them would lead the student to get lost comparing terminologies. He gives the thing itself and trusts the student to recognize it across traditions. The practical point. When you accumulate the electric fluid in the inductive mastery exercise, imagining yourself as the center of a fiery sun filling the universe, feeling the expansion pressing outward through your skin. You are not doing a visualization exercise. You are directly working with the most fundamental force in creation. That pressure at the skin, that sense of being about to burst with light, that is real. Bardon confirms, a sufficiently developed magician can make a neon lamp glow with this accumulated force. The electric fluid is not metaphor. Neither good nor evil. The most radical statement in the chapter. Bardon strips the moral overlay from fire completely. There is neither good nor evil in the universe, for everything was created according to immutable laws. In the context of his era, this is a philosophically explosive claim. Most occult and religious systems of Bardon's time still assigned moral valence to elemental forces. Fire was courage, divine love, purification, but its destructive face was either demonized or carefully bracketed. Bardon refuses both moves. He is not saying that destruction is unfortunate but necessary. He is saying there is no metaphysical difference between construction and destruction. Both are expressions of the same neutral law. The negative pole of fire, corrosive, annihilating, is not evil. Consider what it actually does. Fever burns infection. The immune system destroys pathogens through heat. The annihilating pole of fire is what keeps you alive. Forest fires eliminate dead growth and release nutrients locked in old wood. Ecosystems that are never burned become dangerously overloaded. The destructive pole clears what the constructive pole cannot. The sun's nuclear fire annihilates hydrogen continuously, and that annihilation is what makes all planetary life possible. Every act of focused will that cuts through confusion, that burns away illusion, that refuses what is false. These are the negative pole of fire operating at the psychological level. They feel like destruction because they are destruction of what needed to end. Religions assigned good to the active pole and evil to the passive pole because they were teaching populations who could not yet wield both poles consciously. The moral framework was a safety limiter, a training wheel, not the truth. Bardon is writing for those who have outgrown the training wheels. The initiate works with the law itself, not its moral translation. The deeper political layer, fear as an installed architecture. There is a layer beneath the philosophical point that Bardon does not name, but his logic makes explicit. Who benefits from a population that fears its own fire? The negative pole of fire, anger as surgical force, destruction as creative clearing, passion as directed will, makes a person ungovernable. Someone who can wield their own destructive fire consciously does not comply with systems that depend on compliance. So, the elegant control move is to attach shame and fear to that very capacity. Now the most potent people self-limit automatically, invisibly, without any external enforcement needed. This is not conspiracy. It is the natural behavior of any system that depends on the suppression of sovereignty. A priest class, a political structure, a social norm, or anything that requires docility in the governed needs the fire principle domesticated in the population. And the deeper irony, those who install the fear of fire fear fire most. Because they know what an unafraid person with conscience will can do. The fear they install is a confession of their own weakness projected outward as moral law. The initiate who sees through this does not become reckless. He becomes free. He can now choose when to deploy each pole based on actual situational intelligence rather than conditioned fear response. That is what magical equilibrium means at this level, not the absence of destructive fire, but sovereign relationship to it. Active and latent in everything. The universality of fire. Bardon states that the fire principle is active and latent in everything that has been created, that is, in the whole universe from the smallest grain of sand to the highest visible and invisible. This is not poetry. It is a claim about the structure of reality at every scale. Fire is not in some things, it is the expansion principle operating at every density of existence. Akasha. Fire manifests as the original creative impulse differentiation itself, the first wanting of existence. Mental. Spirit fire manifests as the will is the pure I act of the immortal spirit, sovereign agency. Astral. Soul fire manifests as passion, desire, courage, anger, fever, the full force of emotion in motion. Etheric. Fire manifests as vital nerve force, OD, the animating electrical charge of the body. Physical. Fire manifests as heat, combustion, electricity, expansion, light. Universal. Fire manifests as electric fluid as centrifugal cosmic force, the outward movement of all energy. The grain of sand contains fire because it has atomic structure held apart by energetic repulsion. Its material form exists in tension with collapse. The particles do not merge because the repulsive force, electric fluid at the material scale, pushes them into stable configuration. Even apparent solidity and inertia contain latent fire. Matter is compressed motion. Stillness is fire temporarily balanced. At the level of the spirit, will is not a product of fire. Will is fire expressing itself through the mental body. When Bardon later maps the elements to the qualities of the spirit, fire maps to will and to the sense of sight, because both are fundamentally projective. They send energy outward from center toward a target. Fire in the spirit, will as the magical organ of fire. Element, fire. Quality of spirit, will, sovereign agency. Sense, eyes, vision. Exercise focus, optical imagination projecting inner light. Element, air. Quality of spirit, intellect, all aspects. Sense, ears, hearing. Exercise focus, acoustic imagination, inner listening. Element, water. Quality of spirit, feeling and life. Sense, sensation. Exercise focus, emotional depth exercises. Element, earth. Quality of spirit, consciousness. Sense, taste and smell. Exercise focus, present moment awareness. Element, akasha. Quality of spirit, conscience. Sense, everything together. Exercise focus, pure concentration proceeds on its own. Fire equals will. Eyes equals vision. The sense of sight is the fire sense because the eye sends attention outward actively. You aim your gaze. You direct your focus. This is not passive reception, water/sensation, or discriminating reception, air/hearing. Sight is projection and projection is fire. The will in Bardon's sense does not mean willpower as brute force or stubbornness. It means the sovereign capacity to initiate, the pure I act of the immortal spirit. A person with highly developed will does not merely endure, they move. They change the field rather than adapting to it. This is why Bardon begins initiation with fire. You cannot initiate into anything if you cannot initiate at all. The entire Adept book, the original book, Initiation into Hermetics, book was manipulated. In Step 1, Thought Control, Concentration Exercises is a fire training. It is teaching the will to govern the mind rather than follow it. The magician with excess fire but undeveloped water and air, strong will, weak feeling, brittle intellect. Burns through relationships and projects. Starts brilliantly, sustains poorly. The development path is to strengthen water, emotional depth, and air, discernment, until the will has wisdom to direct it. The magician with insufficient fire, rich feeling, water, sharp mind, air, but cannot act decisively. Understands everything, initiates nothing. The development path is to strengthen fire through optical imagination exercises, concentration on single points of light, deliberate practice of unambiguous choice. The Kabbalistic Key. SCH, the mother letter of fire. In the Key to the True Kabbalah, Bardon reveals the complete elemental letter formula for mastery of the fire principle across all planes. SCH equals Shin, fire in the Akashic principle, primordial fire plus primordial light, unmanifested omnipotence, the first outpouring of divine creation. H equals He, fire in the mental realm, highest enlightenment, spiritualization approaching ecstasy, the will principle made luminous. S equals Samic, fire in the astral realm, absolute clairvoyance in its purest form, mastery of the electric fluid, transmutation capacity. T equals Tet, fire in the material world, absolute faith, mastery of the electric fluid in gross matter, the ability to influence the physical world through fire. The four-key formula for complete dominion over fire, SCH, H, S, T. Each letter is not merely a sound, but a specific vibrational imprinting of the fire principle into each plane simultaneously. To work this formula Kabbalistically is to speak fire into existence at every level of reality at once: Akashic cause, mental will, astral force, material effect. The Shin vibration in the Akashic principle symbolically appears as a shining sun with primordial fire as substance in the middle and primordial light as the radiation of that fire. Bardon here specifies SHC as first sound of Shin. You vibrate that sound. One sound, one vibration, one color, one frequency. This is not description for visualization's sake. It is the actual signature of the fire principle at its source level, a blazing core radiating outward in all directions. Every sun in every solar system is a gross material echo of this Akashic pattern.
Fiat lux.
Light as fire's firstborn. Bardon closes his fire chapter with a scriptural citation that most readers pass over too quickly. In the beginning of all created things was fire and light. The Bible also says, Fiat lux, let there be light. He is doing something precise here. He is not citing the Bible for authority. He is identifying the Hermetic event behind the scriptural description. Let there be light is Akasha producing fire, the first outward movement of causality into something perceivable. Light is fire at its most rarefied and expansive state, not yet contracted into heat, not yet dense enough to warm, already moving at maximum velocity. This is why in the Key to True Kabbalah, light is associated with the highest vibrational letters. Light is fire before it slows down into matter. It is the transitional state between the Akashic cause level and the manifest world, expansion pure enough to be visible, but not yet dense enough to have temperature in the ordinary sense. The deeper implication: darkness is not the absence of fire, but the presence of water. Bardon states this explicitly in the chapter on light. Darkness arose from the water principle. It has the opposite specific properties of light. Without darkness, light would not be recognizable, and without darkness, light would not exist at all. This is not paradox. It is the law of polarity stated in the language of optics. Fire and water reveal each other. The electric fluid is visible only against the magnetic field. The creative impulse is recognizable only in contrast to the receptive response. The core synthesis. The deepest thing Bardon points to through the fire chapter, fire is not just an element. It is the universe's proof that Akasha chose to exist rather than remain potential. Akasha is pure, undifferentiated cause, infinite potential, utterly still. Fire is the moment potential moved. It is the first yes, the first act, the first assertion that something rather than nothing would be the case. Every act of will you perform, every conscious decision to do something, every moment you project your attention deliberately toward a goal, you are participating in the original fire. You are reenacting, at a human scale, the cosmological event that began creation. This is not metaphor. In Bardon's system, the human will and the primordial fire are the same substance at different densities. Mastery of one is mastery of the other. This is why fire is the first step of initiation. Not because it is easiest. Because nothing else can begin until the will has learned to move deliberately. Water brings depth. Air brings wisdom. Earth brings form. But fire brings the beginning itself. Without it, the other elements have nowhere to go.